The journey continues, and the foundation has been laid, which is Jesus Christ, the Holy One of Israel. He is the solution to all fundamental issues of life. This is the Promise of God TV, and I am Prophet F.M. Matthew, by God's plan. Viewers, welcome to the Promise of God TV. Welcome to the Promise of God TV. A disposition heart is a vulnerable heart. And a vulnerable heart is a heart that can easily yield to temptation and offense. A dispositioned heart is a heart that is not engaged with God, but rather it is engaged with pain of the past, current events, current difficulties, and offense. The biggest battle is in our heart. The biggest battle is in our heart. There are more battles in the hearts of people than the ones that we see physically with our eyes. The enemy or Satan will constantly find ways to disposition your heart. Find ways to disposition your heart. He cannot directly enter into our hearts, but he uses events and information to disposition our hearts. What we see and what we hear. These are the tactics that he uses to disposition our hearts. Let us open our Bibles in the book of Job, chapter 1. I will start reading from verse 9. The book of Job, chapter 1, from verse 9. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well, then everything he has is in your hands. But on the man himself do not lay a finger. And Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. Let us go to chapter 2. That was chapter 1, talking about the first test. Now chapter 2 talks about the second test, but I will start reading from verse 4. Skin for skin, Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life. But stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well, and he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. Viewers, when you have time, read chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And as we begin to talk about this subject today, begin to reflect on your life. Begin to reflect on your life. Let us also read the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. The Lord was in a conversation with Satan. And from there, the Lord gave access to Satan to destroy Job's life. And the enemy departed from the presence of the Lord and started to destroy everything that Job had. His wealth, his riches, possession, everything. And everything that he was destroying was everything that Job could see with his eyes. and touch with his hands. And reports started coming, one after another. Master, your flocks. Master, your buildings. Master, your sons and daughters. Master, this is taking place. This, that, your investments, your wealth, your possession, and also his health. The main aim of all this from the enemy was not just to make Job poor or to make him suffer, but rather it was to disposition his heart. Because remember, a disposition heart is a vulnerable heart, and a heart that is vulnerable easily yields to temptation and offense. The enemy knew, if I disposition his heart will become vulnerable, and that means he will easily yield to temptation. And when you yield to temptation, you begin to act out of character. You begin to act out of character. And remember, the enemy will constantly find ways to disposition your heart. And now we find Satan and the Lord talking. And Satan is saying to the Lord, Job is upright, Job is noble, but do you know why? Because you've blessed him with everything. Look at his prosperity. Look at everything that you gave him. Buildings, prosperity, money, flocks, everything. This is the reason why he loves you so much. And this is the reason why he's obedient to you. And this is the reason why his heart is with you. His heart is fully engaged with you because of everything that you have done for him. And this is the reason why he's noble, and this is the reason why he's upright. The enemy thought that the basis and the foundation of Job's obedience and love towards the Lord was based on his prosperity, was based on everything that he had. Was based on everything that he had. Many of us today are Christians when the ground is calm and the road is smooth. Many of us today are Christians when the ground is calm and the road is smooth. When information comes to us and an event takes place, our hearts are dispositioned. Our hearts are dispositioned. A simple call, a simple text, a simple conversation dispositions our heart. Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. A guard or a security official, their job is to protect. Their job is to protect. If you decide today to go and visit your president, viewers, I don't know where you are located, whatever country that you are located in, if you decide to go and visit your president today, when you arrive at his house, you will see guards, security officials at the entrance and also around the premises. Why? They are there to protect the president. Yes, a lot of people love the president, admire the president, but there are also people that don't wish well for the president, that would want to attack the president and destroy his life for reasons known to them. If the president is in office for 5 years, he remains under protection 24/7. If he remains in office for 10 years, the same. Even if 10 years goes by, no attack, no threat. The president won't wake up one morning and say to his guards or the security officials, I don't need you anymore, because for the past 10 years, we have not been attacked, no threat, You guys can go home. No. Whether an attack has happened or not, protection remains the same. Now, in that book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 13, the Lord is talking to us. Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Because the Lord knows that events and information will come to us. And the main purpose of all this is to disposition our hearts. To disposition our hearts. Once our hearts are dispositioned, many of us, we stop praying. We start seeing God in a bad light. We stop praying. Our hearts are not engaged with God. And before we know it, we spend days, we spend weeks, we spend months without praying, without devotion. And we are now acting out of character. And by the time we regain composure, we realize that our relationship with the Lord has been affected and we are under attack. The question is, what is dispositioning your heart? What has affected your prayer life? Is it what you see, or is it what you hear? Because remember, what we see and what we hear, this is what the enemy uses to disposition our hearts. Someone brings you information about something, and before you know it, your heart is dispositioned. You see something happening before you, or an event happening before you, and your heart is dispositioned. But Job remained the same. A dispositioned heart is a vulnerable heart. And a vulnerable heart is a heart that can easily yield to temptation and to offense. The enemy will cause you to lose your sense of reasoning once your heart is dispositioned. He will fight you with everything that he has to disposition your heart. To disposition your heart. In that book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 7, we walk by faith and not by sight. We live by faith and not by sight. What we see does not dictate our direction. What we see does not dictate our direction. Guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Events took place in Job's life. Information came, but his heart remained engaged with God. I know the biggest question now in your heart is, what is the way out? What is the solution? What do we do? Viewers, I want you to reflect on your life at this very moment. Begin to reflect on your life. What you see and what you hear dispositions your heart. What is dispositioning your heart? What is constantly dispositioning your heart? Begin to reflect. Begin to reflect. Is it what you see, or is it what you hear? A dispositioned heart is a vulnerable heart. In that book of Genesis, 28 verse 15. It says, I will never leave you until I have done what I have promised you. The promise of God will prevail in our lives. We are God's people.